Wearing?
What do you mean, what am I wearing? Oh, just
that is not what you were wearing earlier. Did you do a costume change and I completely missed it?
I did a costume change during the countdown.
I'm so mad that was it a scramble? Did you scramble?
So the genius of it. So I had 60 seconds to do this and I had about 30 seconds spare. So the beauty of this uniform is that it's a onesie jumpsuit. So
hold on. It's you're wearing it on your legs already?
Yeah, I already had it on my legs. So I had it on my bottom half because we finished the episode. So I went to my wardrobe, had it on the bottom half, and then got the arms on while the intro music was going. And I've got the hugest website. I've got the hugest wedgie.
You have a website for your wedgie?
A website for my wedgie, yeah.
Jeez, love flippin' Pete. You were demoted.
Also, these are, wait, hang on, this side. These are the only 2 pips that I can find. I've lost my other 2.
Well, then I guess you don't deserve to be whatever rank you were before you lost him, because those are important things. Let me get
really,
the
really
music
important.
Going here for us.
Hang on,
I almost opened up Baldur's Gate again.
Could you stop? There we go.
Well, I'm sorry I missed that. I was reading something else and I was like, oh man, this is awesome. It's the list of all of the food items that are being brought to Iris's Thanksgiving celebration by other parents. Cool. And I was like, that sounds good. And I'm getting hungry and I'm reading through the list. And then I look over and I saw all the people that were like saying hi at the beginning of the show. And I was like, I get really excited before the show starts just because everybody else is excited.
Of course.
I glance down and see you. You're also really happy. And it's because of the costume, isn't it?
Of course it is. Look, check this out. A pocket. But guess what? It the pocket is just a hole.
You're excited about a hole in your clothes
yes.
that you can zip up.
It has a zip. Yep, doesn't go anywhere else.
Well, I guess that's important.
Yeah. I really do love this uniform, though. I think it's a very underrated uniform.
Well, I mean, what uniform is it for those of us who have no idea? Which is me.
This is from the TV show called Enterprise that came out the year after Voyager, Deep Space Nine, TNG, so after Voyager finished. So it was the last of like that Rick Berman era, Brannon Braga era of Star Trek, and it only had 4 seasons, and this is the one that's set 100 years before Captain Kirk. So it was like the first prequel series. There was like the very beginning of Starfleet, pre-Federation, and yeah.
That explains how shit it looks.
It was meant to be like, hey, this is what the astronauts were wearing, and this is like the logical next step. Listen, from astronauts to Star Trek.
I was saying it to be dramatic, but compared to my uniforms I like, it is very...
Oh, yeah.
Basic.
It's very stripped down and very basic. It's just a blue jumpsuit with some like...
Tape. Yellow tape on it.
Just the... this isn't an expensive version of the uniform. It was... theirs was fabric.
I was being dramatic on purpose.
Sucks.
What is this? What is the episode missing? Oh, is it? Oh yeah, it was 80x. It was question mark
Was there?
exclamation point.
Get the heck out.
I'm pretty sure.
Well, I ain't changing it.
Why?
Because I don't have the shits for that.
You don't have the shits.
No, I've run out. All of my shits have gone. They've left.
How do I change it? Mm-hmm.
In the picture, you can't. Unless you, like, have all of my assets, which I deliberately don't share with you. Well, because you don't need to pee in space. Because they just beam the pee out of you.
Look, guys, I did it.
It makes sense.
I changed the title of what I can change. I did.
I thought you meant the picture.
Well, that needs to be changed too.
That's not going to get changed. No, not happening.
He needs a new website for that. He needs a new website for his pants jumpers and his hole pockets.
Oh, somebody! It's a zip-up boob window. That's what it is. There we go. Just like the Klingons.
It's for breastfeeding.
You get a little.
Oh, that's a really inconvenient place for the nipple. But unless you're an alien, and then your nipples are just a little bit higher.
That's true. It's just in a different. Some people may keep their nipples there, don't they?
It's not a terrible uniform. I was just being a butt on purpose.
It's a really fun web. Wait, they did. They did have transporters. They just decided not to use them for like any of the episodes. For some reason, they were too dangerous.
Like in today's episode.
Yeah.
There's reasons.
Oh yeah, it's because they don't. Yeah.
So you had to cover in goop before you use the transporters.
Yeah, I had to cover in goop before I slipped into this very not breathable onesie.
That's it, decontamination gel.
Yeah, that comes from Enterprise as well. That we'll get to that in the episode. But there were many scenes of them lavering each other up.
I wouldn't want to go through the transporter first. I'm watching this show called The Summit. It's like a new reality TV show competition where a group of just regular people are sent to New Zealand, and they get there and they're told, I think, to start off is that they're going to be competing for money. And so they get there and they're told, okay, so to get this $1 million, you have to climb that mountain. And like none of them are mountain climbers.
Oh,
they're just like a mom.
Oh no.
And I mean, there's some athletic people in the group for sure, but
it's not their job.
Each person is carrying part of the $1 million in their backpack. So if somebody quits, the money goes with them.
Oh, so you're not going to win $1 million if you get to the top then. You win whatever's in your bag.
You win what is able to be won, yes, carried up the mountain, yes.
That's a crock of nonsense.
So...
I'll just leave with the backpack then.
I mean, you can't. That's not the rules at all.
Not that attitude.
I don't remember why I was telling you about that now.
Transporters?
Oh, the first person to go through. In the most recent episode, they have reached this particular point. Oh, by the way, like several of them super afraid of heights, and they didn't know they were going to have to climb a mountain. So they're just like,
that's not fair.
Just a reminder, this is an R-rated show.
Yeah.
And so they so in today's episode, they have to, like, there's been many challenges where they have to face their fear of heights in various ways, but they're usually harnessed to something they have to crawl across or walk across or build a bridge as they go, these kinds of things. But today's, the one that I watched today, was literally hold on to a rope that has a little bit of a knot at the bottom of it and last across a zip line. You have to hold on. Now, of course, they are harnessed, so they can't actually fall to their deaths. There's safety involved. But if they let go, there's a consequence for it. So the goal is to just hang on. And everyone's like, who's going to go first? Because it's kind of like a steep drop when you get started. You just don't want to be the first person. I don't want to be the first person in that situation. I also don't want to be the first person in a haunted house.
Yeah, you don't want to test that stuff out. You want to make sure, like, just it's like knowing you can complete a hard level of a video game. Once you've done it that first time, it's a lot easier. You just want to know nobody dies when they go through it. The problem with transporters is that you probably might be the third person to go through and still die.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah. It's called The Summit. It's not bad. It's interesting. It's different because it's a brand new reality competition. you're watching the people figure out how to play the game. And the people who are playing the game are very familiar with reality competition shows like The Challenge or Survivor or these other shows. So they're going in with some sense of strategy, but no one's ever played this game before, so it's really kind of interesting.
You can't really metagame it like you can Survivor. Survivor is so fascinating in the fact that now it's such a meta game because everyone who goes in it has heard of Survivor and is like, well, this is this era of Survivor and this is this era of Survivor, and the eras change based on how people try and fudge the rules. It's fascinating. Yeah. In this case, just so you know, these people who are like on the mission today, they're holding onto the rope and they take the first kind of run off of this gorge. And you just drop down, and depending on how much you weigh determines how hard you hit the ground, because you kind of bounce off the ground for the first couple. Oh, no.
You're just literally watching people get drug through bushes and earth. And amazing. Then if you can manage to hold on through that first drop and being drugged through like the tundra or whatever, the topography, then you're over the gorge and you're just holding on. And the first people that went, I think it took like around 15 seconds. So then the chant became for the rest of them like, it's just 15 seconds. It's just 15 seconds. So anyway.
It'll be over quickly. It's fine.
So anyways, that's a show that I'm watching.
I'm sorry, Paulie. So I'm in a doctor's office and have the sound off. I'm missing a ton. Catch up later. Yep. You'll get a lot of Danae's expressions, but the words are important.
I'm going to make a banner. Yeah. Hold on. You're not missing for much.
That's for you, Paulie. Oh, that's so funny. You should not have command of the banners.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that I have been given control of that I've had to really work on my internal resistance. So there was a question about animal stories. I will share an animal.
Go for it.
I'll share a little animal story. Let me pop that question up. The newest one is that I got out of the rhythm of purchasing the cat food that I've been buying, and I kind of had to shoot from the hip a bit, and the cat noticed and was very vocal with me, and I'm doing this thing now where I have to sort of attempt to interpret what the cat is telling me and trust my intuition, but at the same time I have a dramatic flair. I don't know if you've noticed. And I have a vivid imagination. Maybe you heard of it. So I don't know what the cat is trying to tell me. And it's flipped from, give me food. This isn't the food that I wanted. This isn't the flavor that I like, to, I'm dying inside of worms and I need you to save me. There's something that changed in my head. Like, well, what if he's sick? What if that's and I'm not his owner? I don't pay his vet bills.
No.
And as he ran out the door the other day, I think I saw a worm hanging out of his ass. And I tried to catch him so that I could like really get a good look at it and figure out if it was just a string or weirdness. And I'm pretty sure it was a worm. And I'm like, is this so now?
So wait, did you have the suspicion before you saw what you thought was a worm, or afterwards?
After that.
Okay.
Now I can't stop thinking about it. And then he's vomited a couple times. At least I think it's the cat.
Cats always vomit.
Okay. Thanks for telling me that. I have no idea how to care for a cat.
They vomit a lot.
But one of them was like reddish.
Okay,
like, what if it's blood?
Well, no, that could
what if
be
he's
just
dying.
Yeah, blood isn't usually a good sign in vomit, but it could be like the bird that he just ate. It is interesting because you're not
eat a bird.
You're not responsible for taking him to the vets, but you do see him more, so you'll notice symptoms more.
I know.
So yeah, it is interesting.
I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should text my neighbor and be like, hey, our baby boy might have a problem with his gut. I don't know what the signs of, like, because, okay, so you told me, Ian, that cats like to tell you when there's something wrong with them by pooping or peeing or maybe vomiting where you can find it.
They'll often, so I've had 3 cats and all of them at some point have peed in the sink when there is like blood in their urine, and like they will deliberately tell, or like in the kitchen sink as well, just to be like, hey, this is at your eye level. I know you go here. Look at what's happening to me.
So then I'm thinking, okay, well then he's doing these things to tell me that there's something wrong, but I can't communicate with him. I don't know. So now it's turned into the worry mom, and it's a bummer, but I'm enjoying it still. I mean, I can't kick him out now. He is here all the time. He also has continued to take up sleeping in my car. I opened the garage door to leave, and I called for the cat because he still hadn't had his breakfast yet. And the last time I didn't give him breakfast on time, he killed an animal. And so I was like, okay, I need to make sure he eats.
Someone's going to pay for this. Someone's going to suffer.
If she's not feeding me, I got to go take care of myself. So I was trying to save the bird population, and he comes out of the car. When I call to him, he's like, here I am. And now I'm worried that he's dragging dead things into my car and hiding them, because like my car kind of smelled really bad. But then I remembered it was because I left part of a tuna sandwich in there.
I'm sure he loved that. That probably explains the vomiting as well. This is a good point. JA says, call the vet and get a worm pill. They don't cost much, and you should only need 1 to 2 depending on his weight. Which,
Jesus Christ.
Worming cats is a genuine thing that you should regularly do anyway, just because, especially outdoor cats, they should get the flea thing that you put on the back of their neck and worming pills. So yeah, that's a great, exactly. Yeah. Even if they don't have worms, just do that. Yeah.
David.
It's so true.
He's so true. Your cat, but he's not technically
he is functionally your cat.
Right. But how do you I buy his food. I take care of him every single day. I snuggle with him at night whenever I call him in, and I say, come on, buddy. And then we snuggle and everything. And it's really, really sweet. But I don't pay him vet bills.
No, but you also don't want to double up on the fleeing spray and the worming thing. So I would message her and be like, hey, do you worm and flea thunderstorm? I don't mind doing it. Also, can you sign this legal agreement that tells the world that this is now my cat? Yeah, I mean, yes. All vet costs will now pass over to you. Oh, man. He's right now has a smile line of what I can only assume is motor oil on his white face. And he's brown because he once again left the house and is just completely covered in dust. So it is a very interesting experience to have an indoor cat who I am certain, if I don't start rolling up the windows of my car, will be dragging in his dead prey into his little cave that he has, this insulated space in the garage. Winter is coming. And so I'm thinking, he's liking to stay in the garage. He's not meowing to come in at night when it's cold. He's totally fine to stay in the garage. He's fine being a garage kitty, but I worry about him. Yeah. So I'm like, well, I'm going to bring him in and make sure he's okay. Yeah. But it's the hard part of having an outdoor cat is that at some point it may happen. Something terrible might happen. Oh my God. I will send a message, but it's weird because the last time I asked her about worms, she said he doesn't have worms. And so it's like, I don't want to be like, I don't want to be like, you need to get the deworming pills. It's kind of awkward, isn't it? It's a weird, it's a weird, awkward thing where I'm responsible for sharing his care information, and she's responsible for deciding if she wants to get the medication, and then I'm responsible for saying I'm going to go ahead and do that anyway, and then say, is that okay? Or just because I don't want to over medicate the cat, obviously. No, and you're kind of implying that she's not looking after the cat enough. It's awkward. How could she? He's here all the time. Yeah, but if you're like, hey, do you worm and flea him? It's kind of like, hey, do you bathe your child? Do you brush your child's head? Are you brushing your child's teeth? It could get into that territory, isn't it? Yeah, which is why I have been intending to invite her over to have just some hang time where then we can talk about the cat a little bit more confidently. So that's my update for the cat life. Everything is
It seems to be good. Last night when I did ask him to come inside, I picked him up and brought him to bed, and he laid right beside me and he snuggled into me.
Oh, it's so sweet.
And he wrapped his arms and legs around my arm and snuggled his head into my hand and rested with his hand in my head and went to sleep.
That's so sweet.
So
you were his whoopee.
he does love me. Now, it's probably because obviously I feed him, but then also
You sure do.
I give him cat massages.
Yeah, on his little
And
face.
he really likes the cat massages.
Does he get it on like his little chin bits? His little...
Yes. And then up around his ears and then down. I really get into his neck, you know, because he's a hunter. So he's got the he got the hunter stress
Hunched
going
over.
on.
Yeah.
You're right, Highlander. Absolutely. I might have to.
That's so
I
funny.
might need to do that.
Hello, Dare. Nice to see you in the live show. I think it's been a while since you popped into the live show. I did get your message on Discord, but not in time. We'd already recorded the intro, so I couldn't put it in the predictions. But I'll add it into next week's show. But nice to see you.
It's good to see everybody.
Yeah,
we are going to be talking today about Starbase 80 Lower
Question
Decks.
mark, exclamation mark.
This is the final season of Lower Decks, and we are watching through it. We just finished watching it, made ourselves a cup of coffee, changed our clothes, and we're here to chat with you live. And just like every week, we really appreciate you guys being here, and we thank you for supporting our show. And we are an R-rated show. We're broadcasting onto YouTube and Twitch in different spots and spaces, and depending on where you're watching, you'll be able to change how you view the comments. So if you're on YouTube, I'm often told to change from top comment to like live comment.
Live comment.
So make sure you click that so you can see everybody else's comments as the show carries on. Special shout out to those who watch our videos on YouTube later. We see you, we recognize you, and thank you for doing that. Also, of course, the full show is available on the podcast, which is how all of this got started. So
shout out to people who watch the live show, the recording after the fact, and listen to the podcast. All three. Shout out to that person specifically.
We love
There's got to be one of you out there that does all three.
For this particular part, we do not talk directly to the audience as much as we are right now because we're trying to stay focused and record like, professionals. But we do pin your comments and get to them as soon as we possibly can. Oftentimes what you have to say is something that we've got in our notes too. So we try to put your comments up in line with what we're talking about, but there is about a 10 to 15 second delay. And so we do our very best to produce the show as we go.
Yeah, we do.
Thank you for being here.
I did indeed load air, and I've saved it, and we'll stick it in the post-show breakdown of the lovely messages that everyone sends.
We do steal your comments from time to time.
Yeah, we
or
do.
we have the same thought, but we choose to read your comment because we want you to feel included.
Or the reverse. There's something I missed that I'm really impressed with that I steal.
Mm-hmm. And this is an R-rated show, so hide your children. Unless your children are okay with the cursey words and adult content, in which case, hi kids. And then
Buy a uniform. That's my advice this week.
Slab, we love you. Thank you for barely making time for us.
We barely appreciate it.
By the way, Slab, I think it was your account on Duolingo. It asked me to send a prompt to you, like, or maybe it was for JCD. It was like, remind so-and-so to come back and practice their Spanish. I was like, I am not telling them what to do with their time in their life.
That is manipulative.
If it wasn't you, that's okay. Second Slab fact is that your baby Slab is on a fucking roll. Congratulations on like 1,000 days or something crazy like that. It's amazing.
That's really sneaky marketing. It's like, I'm not sending you a notification. Your friend is sending you one, okay?
Oh,
Don't get mad at me.
Someone sent that notification to me, and here's how Duolingo sent it. You're not pulling your weight.
Wow.
I was like, you fucker!
That can end friendships. Jiminy.
But that's friendships with the actual Duolingo. You can't blame... Like, I don't get to decide what message is sent out. It's just like, do you want to send a reminder to come back? And then Duolingo's reminder is feel like shit for not practicing. God damn.
It's a mess. That's insane. That's
You're
so
on a
manipulative.
3,000 day streak? Oh my God.
That's crazy. I don't even know how many years that is.
That's
10
a
years?
lot.
9 years?
That's a
8
lot.
years? 8 years. That's got to be about 8 years.
Wow.
That's crazy. How well do you know Klingon after 8 years?
They do have Klingon on Duolingo.
I'm not. I want to know that it's the right Klingon. I don't want it to be like some knockoff stuff. I want it to really be for real. Wedge douche.
You're on a 1,000-day streak. You switched to Italian. That's so great. German and Korean. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I am just doing Spanish. I guess that's not true. There was a couple of days I decided to like pop into Norwegian for a minute, and then I get right out of there. And then I started to do their music lessons too, which was a way, cool, honestly, for me to open up some of the chests that I need to open so that I can get my little badge. Anyway, that's not why you're here. No. But thank you for hanging out with us. We're gonna go live, and you need to turn off the sound of your warp core, sir.
No, I don't. That's so loud. Just build up the phaser and then stop.
It's a great question. If you're around for the end, I think we'll talk about this later.
I'm skeptical. I have thoughts. No, I have legit thoughts about that. Okay. Welcome to 10 Forward, the part of the show where we grab something from the replicator and share our immediate thoughts and feelings on the episode we just watched.
Oh, just kidding. Sorry.
Most important question first. Did you hate it? No. What do you want from the replicator?
A corn dog.
You can have your corn dog. I'm going to get me some decontamination gel, if you know what I mean.
Gross.
Yeah, I'm going to slava that decontamination gel everywhere. Yeah.
It didn't seem to have any negative side effects, though.
No, I was convinced that the gel was going to be the thing, but it really didn't have any negative side effects.
That we know of yet.
I'm glad that it got a shout out, though, because it's notorious.
It's a thing? That's a thing?
It exists in Star Trek. It's a thing.
Okay.
We'll get to it.
I guess
Give us a synopsis of this week's episode. Question mark, exclamation point.
Mariner returns to Starbase 80, this place that we've been thinking about and wondering about for a long time, and then we go there and we discover that this starbase is scary for many reasons, and the newest reason is something that the Cerritos has brought to Starbase 80, some sort of weird creature that is infecting communication badges and technology and porpoises.
Whales? Dolphins?
Aren't they a porpoise?
Well, what's her name? This is a great start. Cassia Knox. Cassia Knox says that they're whales, but I always thought they were dolphins.
I thought that
I didn't think they were whales.
Maybe they're not porpoises. No, they're not porpoises. There's a difference between porpoises
Did you just Google
and
a porpoise?
Dolphins. Yes, because I couldn't remember. I just recently seen something where I had to know this, and I remember being like, "Oh, I am now educated," and then I unlearned myself. So are they whales or are they dolphins?
I'm being reliably informed by our producer, aka the live chat, that they are beluga whales specifically.
Oh, of course. Okay, yes, that makes sense.
Beluga whales.
Because the beluga whale has the big, like, bulbous forehead kind of thing.
Yeah, with a kind of more stunted nose. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So anyway, this entity has possessed the beluga whale, and we are excited for it because we get to see zombies this episode, reminiscent of like the first episode I think that I ever watched of this show.
I was getting a lot of episode 1 flashbacks where the crew of the Cerritos get zombified. Yeah.
But yeah, this is an episode that is taking Mariner on the journey of reconciling with yet another thing that she needs to come face to face with, which is that her hatred of Starbase 80 needs to have some sort of resolution, and that is why this episode exists. A
big old redemptive arc for rumors and bad reputations and stuff like that. Ambassador, after a couple of admittedly rough episodes that we've had mixed feelings about, was this a return to form? Did you enjoy this week?
Yes, I enjoyed this episode.
Yay!
I thought it was paced nicely. It was a fun little, adventure to follow, a mystery to solve, and it worked for me. What about you? Did you like it?
Yeah, me too. You could say it's a pretty superficial episode, but I'm kind of glad we had that. I had a really great time with it. It's a fun just adventure. It kind of reminds me of Genesis, which is the weird episode of TNG where they all de-evolve, and it's like it's the Data and Picard come back to the Enterprise, and Riker's turned into a caveman. Deanna has turned into a fish. And it just kind of reminded me of that like kind of fun throwaway episode that's a fun ride, good jokes, lots of references. I had some laugh out loud moments that were really funny. Like, I think the show does physical comedy so freaking well, and the voice acting is
for being a cartoon.
For me, like physical comedy in a cartoon, you'd think it's either going to be really easy or really hard. Either way, they nail it. And yeah, I had so much fun with this episode. Throw out some of your highlights for me.
Well, I can't go any further because our producer / chat, which would be a combination of Phil and Lodair, are talking about how the creature is the same creature as the sex candle.
Yeah.
Is that true?
I was going to get to this. At the very end of the episode, when they confront the dolphins, the British doctor is like...
It's not a dolphin, it's a whale. We just said that.
My bad. The British doctor is like the beluga whales, whatever. They've been possessed by an anaphasic life form. And the anaphasic life form is the green life form energy being that inhabits Beverly's candle. So immediately all of the pieces, as soon as he said anaphasic, all of the pieces came together. And I was like, of course it's green. Why didn't I see that sooner? So yeah, this is another sex candle ghost that is fucking with inanimate objects to mess with people. But yes, it's a sex candle callback. Does that reformat the episode for you in your brain?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how this... Okay, so the creature of this episode is the same kind, or it's like a junior version that's trying to like show its ability.
Yeah, it's the same species. Yeah, not the same specific ghost.
Correct.
It may not even be the same race, but it's the same type of being. Like, we're carbon-based.
Oh.
It's anaphasic energy-based.
But the candle episode, now I'm back in that one, and Lower Decks has entirely disappeared for me. So I need to
Did he light the candle? Let me see.
I have to figure out how to get my brain to stop thinking about that episode, because in that one, Beverly has to go back home for some kind of an event, right? And for
the death of her grandma. Yeah,
right.
Her nana.
And so she essentially inherits this ghost that has been sexually assaulting her family for generations.
Yeah, actually, yes.
Right.
Sexually manipulating them. Yeah.
But oh God, I have to stop thinking about this, but I'm trying to remember, because now I'm thinking like, if this creature in this episode is the same kind of creature.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to give me a second here.
This is amazing. I'm so glad we've seen this episode.
The green ghost, the candle ghost.
Yeah.
What was it trying to accomplish? Was it trying to possess her to live out its life?
If I remember rightly, it was getting energy from her genetics. So her family line had something specific that this life form needed, which is why it couldn't latch on to any old person. It specifically was latching on to all of the women in Crusher's family, or the Howard family line, going from woman to woman. And it was how it was staying alive and sustaining itself.
So it was trying to take something, but it needed her to survive. Like, Beverly needed to live, but she was essentially trading off part of her existence for it to continue on. I can't remember.
Well, in return, they get it's so misogynistic, but on the one side, they get a man to look after them for the rest of their lives. They have like companionship, but also they had like quite long life as well. So there's a history of them living to a very old age and living a very healthy life and kind of being rejuvenated in exchange. So it's a symbiotic, parasitic, non-willing, coercive exchange.
But because that particular ghost guy was not being honest with her about its intentions.
Hell no.
It took the form of a man, or it was
Yes.
okay, so but
No,
it wasn't
it took the physical form of a man, yeah, when it needed to, but it took a lot of energy to hold that physical form. It couldn't stay like that, so it had to use the candle
as its like little resting spot.
As Odo's goo pot. It's the same thing.
Okay. So she lights the candle, activates the dude tries to take her over, she gets out of that. And
Yes.
that is the same
With help
kind
from
of
her
creature
friends.
that is in this one. And its purpose in this one, if I'm understanding correctly,
Mm-hmm.
is not companionship, but just dominating everybody it possibly can.
No,
And it spread itself too thin.
This was are you talking about the one in Lower Decks?
Yes.
No, so this one, it wanted to prove a point to its superiors that communicating with humans and other physical life forms was possible. So it was trying to prove a point that communication was possible with physical beings. So it tapped into the Cerritos, it found the comm badges, and then spread. It was, Marin said it was reaching out its tentacles and fingertips and tongue tips and whatever to try and communicate with people. But it was just fucking it up because it's not familiar with organic life, is how I was understanding it.
Okay. And that's why I needed to stop and think about this, because
what's the correlation between the two?
The intent of this one was very briefly tainted by the intent of the candle one. And I'm like, what are we doing here?
It's as soon as you mention anaphasic, like I'm fortunate that I listened to anything else after that, because every Star Trek fan essentially is like, sex candle, anaphasic energy.
I remember when you were so hesitant to have me watch that episode, and I hate it.
To this day, it is the one I was most nervous about, mainly because of the uncomfortable sexualness. Like, not because I'm uncomfortable watching sexual things, but because it's a very problematic episode in terms of consent, is what I'll say. Like, Beverly doesn't consent to the sexing that happens, although it very much appears that she enjoys it, which is problematic. So I was like really nervous about, like, man, this has not, I don't know that this is aged well.
Yeah. I remember it being like, this is like, there's part of it that's obviously not okay, but the episode itself was interesting.
Yeah. No, I think it's really interesting to bring in this anaphasic life form and to give it new life and to give it meaning beyond the sex candle episode. Like, that's something that Lower Decks does really well, is to take the cliches, the Star Trek tropes, the stuff that might be uncomfortable and hasn't aged well, and give it alternate life and new life. Like, and it's done this with so many different things, and it's like the real redemption here is for the anaphasic being, not just Starbase 80. Right. Whether that's intentional really or not, or me reading into it, but that's what I read into the episode.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. What a great place to start. Like, that episode, the sex scandal episode, is the literal definition of a guilty pleasure. And this episode is, I don't know, maybe, like you said, a redemptive arc for that particular alien species.
It's okay to like that episode because there's something beyond the sex candle alien. Like, there's something that species exists and does things beyond that. I love Lower Decks as a vessel for doing that. One last point on the sex candle stuff before we move on. The live chat came up with this, like, separate people mentioned this from different channels, and it's a genius thing that I hadn't considered, but this anaphasic life form is a lower decker of its own people, because it's a low rank trying to prove to its superiors something. So they met the lower decker of anaphasic life forms. Again, I hope that's deliberate, but that's a really clever little story turn, if deliberate, which I'm going to say it was.
Yeah.
I love that.
I think that this episode was a nice thing to do because we're solving a couple of different mysteries, but the big one is, like, what is Starbase 80 really like? And I don't know. I thought I liked it. The now that I'm kind of coming back into the episode and I'm not as distracted by the correlation with the other entity from TNG, I need to reset my brain and then go back into the episode. So where do you want to start?
Well,
or continue rather.
We are so the Cerritos drops out of warp. The beluga whales can't see where they're going. Panic sets in when Starbase 80 is the closest place they can go. Mariner goes into a blind panic. So I think I'd like to start with the Starbase itself. So there are when you build up something like this from season 1, like there has been so many references to Starbase 80 being the butt of jokes. We get to go there briefly when Mariner is sent there as a punishment for quote unquote betraying the ship. But how did Starbase 80 live up to your expectations? Like, are you happy with where this joke went? Did you want something more? What were you expecting going in? And did you like what Starbase 80 eventually became?
Yeah, I think I was satisfied with it. The zombie thing puts me into like we're just doing something goofy. And so I was attempting to, like Tandy was saying, there's got to be a scientific reason for this. We're not just seeing zombies. There's a reason for it. And of course there is a reason for it. But now that the show is over, this episode is over, Mariner, there's a couple things that don't work for me. And one of them is that Mariner was basically saying this place is cursed. And we were distracted very strongly by the obvious zombie curse. Mm-hmm. But what was she actually talking about? What when she was saying people just come here and they turn dumb, we kind of forget that she had some kind of an actual reference for that. And it's convenient that this entity ended up making people do dumb things to the point of like licking walls and just sort of turning into a zombie. But so that kind of like was like, okay, well, what was she actually talking about? I mean, and maybe she was jaded because she was pissed off. So that was kind of a like, how convenient that her thing that she said happens to go off
correlate with this separate thing that's happening on the Cerritos. Yeah. And I think it's mainly based on her there was somebody she interacted with that was a bit stupid on Starbase 80. And I think that like there's well, I don't think it was him. No. Although he is, bless him. And there is this reputation that people go to Starbase 80 and they never come back. They're just like, that's where you go to die. So yeah, but I agree. There's definitely some artificial amping it up, and then all of the clues, like a good tarot reading, are all there in front of you to interpret and to fit into your conspiracy once you're convinced that thing is cursed.
The second thing that didn't really work for me in this episode is the new Guinan character, the highly optimistic yet very sketch. She's so suspicious.
Cassia Knox. So suspicious, but isn't. Like it
doesn't go anywhere.
No, but I think that I think that's deliberate because we are key to see this really nice, helpful, upbeat, bubbly person that is in this environment that shouldn't be bubbly. She is the Aaron Dicer of Starbase 80.
Oh, God.
And we are deeply suspicious of that. We're like, no, you can't just be happy with your situation. There must be another boot that's going to drop here. And when it doesn't, I think that's playing on us being cynical mariners.
I don't know. Good on them for leaving a little bit of it in a ... way where I'm just kind of feeling a little uncomfortable because when she's at the very end, almost scooting them off of the ship, sort of got that feeling of, oh, you're staying?
Oh, and there's more?
There's a sort of strain in the acting. And that's either something that was put in there purposefully by the director, the voice director, kind of giving, like, there's always this air about this person that they're like a little... Are you
if this comes back around in the finale and she ends up being evil, this will be one
surprised.
Of the greatest predictions you've ever made. Because I didn't get that. I totally was in the camp of, oh, I'm the asshole for assuming she's going to do something evil when she's actually just a nice person being optimistic. But if she ends up being evil, that would be incredible. I would love that.
Yeah. Well, I thought that was going to be the case for Shaw, and I was very wrong. So I don't have a great track record, I suppose.
Yeah.
But there was something about Mariner's turn. They're in the food court towards the end, fighting off everyone, attempting to figure out what's really happening. The combat being the transference of this energy has been discovered, and they realize that if they're going to look at the source and figure this out, they have to be on the Cerritos, and they're going to go back and they're going to infiltrate. But at that moment, they're in the food court, and she is giving this optimistic speech about Starbase 80 being a place where redemptive stories happen. And Mariner is just swallowing it like it's a margarita. She's so happy to just consume this new vibe. And the episode itself telegraphs that Mariner is ready for change with the beginning, showing that she's,
really spelling it out,
enjoying the mission instead of enjoying the subterfuge of the mission. So I am believing that she's growing and evolving as a character. But the Starbase 80 thing, when she's like, oh, this place it can be redemptive, it can be this. That's the moment that the writers are wanting us, the viewer, to jump on board with everything being okay. But we have just seen so many sketchy things happening on Starbase 80. And I have one kind of moment where the quote unquote gang, gives tokens to the captain and hands them when they're going off into the arcade. And that's sort of like, see, these characters are okay. They just look really sketchy, but then they're actually good.
That's the juxtaposition. Yeah.
I think what's interesting is that, because your question's like about Starbase 80, does it work for you? I am really curious about Starbase 80. And because the zombie thing took over so much of Starbase 80, I kind of want to spend some time stripping the mystery of what's happening with the Cerritos crew away, because you really don't have a confident look at the Starbase with that happening at the same time. It's kind of an unfair red herring, so to speak.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Because to me, this Starbase is really interesting. It's out in the middle of nowhere. It obviously needs a lot of assistance. It has some really kooky characters. I would watch a show based on this instead of Deep Space Nine in a minute. This is kind of a...
no!
Do you know what I mean? Like,
sacrilege.
The people that are here, this half of the base is run by this, half of the base is run by that.
And having to deal with all of this old technology as well, and just dealing with the scraps that Starfleet sends you.
Yeah, and then you've got this like really crazy engineer guy who is just fucking with them the whole time. I saw it coming, but it was still really fun to watch him kind of lead them around this Starbase, going
wherever needed to be repaired.
Yes, and then they'd go and they'd repair it and move on. And I thought that worked for me, and that was really fun. And I love how this episode ends, where the captain and Handsome are still they are trying to solve the fucking bat problem.
She has a great line at the very end, which is like, no giant bat is keeping me on this Starbase. I was like, no, but it is. It's so great. It's so like that lack of self-awareness that Freeman has sometimes is so funny.
I think that Starbase 80, the setup on this one was really, really fun for me too. This idea that they don't even have replicators, they have food vendors. I've got a lot of questions about that, but whatever.
They don't have comm badges. They have to use the wall communications panels.
Yep. Their lifts have the turn and talk.
Love that.
They're the kooky things where you turn the corner and engineering is upside down. It would give such a fun space to do a show when every single room is a trap that is designed to kill you, either because something nefarious is going on or because the Starbase is just falling apart and we're in space and we got to make it work,
Interestingly, you've just described the first season of Deep Space Nine, which is because the Cardassians know that Terok Nor, Deep Space Nine, is being handed over to Starfleet. So they sabotage everything. They destroy it. They leave bugs in the system. Airlocks will randomly open. The replicators won't work. And most of the first season, it has lots of storylines where it's like, the Cardassians left this behind. We have to solve this problem. And O'Brien just like rolls his sleeves up like Mariner And O'Brien's job is to fix all of these problems and to rebuild this station. It's great. It's great. It's the best part of season 1 is O'Brien trying to fix the Cardassian space station with chewing gum and sticky tape. Yeah,
I think I would like that very much. So maybe I should actually give it a watch at some point. I think it could be kind of fun. But I do like that. And maybe that was an intentional sort of wink and nod to Deep Space Nine is maybe it has that same vibe, because isn't Deep Space Nine also run by another organization? Isn't it shared?
It's half and half. Yeah, it's under Starfleet control, but it's owned by the Bajorans.
Okay. Yeah.
And the Bajorans have said, you can manage it so that the Cardassians or someone else doesn't come in and take advantage of us.
So it has that same kind of a vibe. And
that 50-50 split, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really great storyline to have for Star Trek, because you can be bombarded by Starfleet. You can be bombarded by Federation. So when you introduce another system of government or governing, I think it kind of gives an opportunity for a lot of stories to happen, because there could be, internal conflict that happens, or just different ways of doing things.
They could have done it on Voyager as well, because Voyager ends up absorbing the Maquis crew that they've chased, but Voyager kind of buries that because they just incorporate the Maquis crew into the crew. So like Chakotay is Maquis, but he puts on the Starfleet uniform. Everybody just gets a Starfleet uniform and they carry on, and they don't do a huge amount with that split of having 50 extra crew that aren't, or however many that aren't Starfleet. So yeah, that you're right. There are so many stories that can come out of that.
It also does something that I think was happening in, was it the final season of Picard? Was it Strange New Worlds? That kind of went more into the Federation isn't always right territory.
I mean, name any modern Star Trek. But that is...
it would be weird if it was Strange New Worlds, because it's modern Star Trek, but it's
that would be a Picard thing.
Was it Picard? I feel like we just watched something where it was like, what if... Maybe that was it. Yeah,
because they're rebuilding the Federation.
Yes,
and people are like, why would we join your club instead of make our own?
Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's a really interesting trend of the more modern storytelling archetype, which is to give the villain an understandable backstory to relate to, and to give the hero a dark element that reminds the viewer that there isn't always a black and white good versus bad.
Yeah.
But we still like to see that happen. We still like to see a confidence of our direction in storytelling and in our lives in general. It's nice to kind of have a clear path instead of there being convoluted decisions to make that you like. It's paralyzing sometimes to kind of go, well, what's the right choice to make, So when you're watching those decisions easier, discovered a little bit easier or more clearly outlined in our entertainment, it's nice for our brains to have something to sort of go, oh, that was easy, because that's clearly the bad guy,
Unless you're presented with a good person that is clearly a good person and you still think they're the villain.
This is the thing, is modern storytelling. They're not really giving us a lot of answers.
Yeah.
What they're really doing in this particular episode is they're just giving us something interesting to watch and then letting it be what it is. And I really do appreciate that, because, you've got this entity that's really messing with people. Like, how many are going to be really ill? They all licked walls, and floors and stuff. That's gross.
Boimler was licking an old Starbase wall. Like, he's probably going to lose that entire beard by the next episode.
Probably just falls off of his face or something.
The evolution of the beard continues with a little pointy goatee, mustache, and some stubble.
Yeah.
Boimler didn't get a huge amount of screen time this week. It was very much focusing on, like you said, Mariner starting off by saying, I'm okay with enjoying missions and not bucking against the rules. And there was something like very cathartic about hearing that spoken out loud, because it's definitely been implied, but when you have a character spell it out and Tendi explain it as well, it's like, oh, this is the place
This
that they
is
want
solid.
Mariner to be. Like, this is really solid. And even if something happens next week that shakes that, that's interesting to me, because it's like, okay, what's going to throw her back? As long as it's not some vague, well, I just don't want her. Like, it would have to be like an interesting event. But I like where she's at right now, and where she's kind of putting her energy. No, I don't think so either. But it would have to be something big to push her back, and that would be interesting if they did that big thing. But it's fun to see her continue to evolve through this season.
Yeah. For Boimler and Mariner in this episode, you're right. It's definitely more of a Mariner episode. And the things we see of Boimler reminded me of what I enjoy about the humor element, because Boimler is still doing great. He does get to the point where he goes Zombo, so he's kind of like, he's off the roster for being helpful in this episode, but getting stuck in a wetsuit and falling down, him going to to work at the helm or whatever, and he's just nipples out, just stuff like that is so funny, because I remember watching the first episode of Lower Decks coming out of, I think, like Picard or Strange. Like, we were just watching some, like, the serious episodes, and something about seeing the crew half still in their wetsuits, the floor is covered in water. And it just reminded me that there's a joy in how this is animated, that if you're watching it back to back, like we have been in Lower Decks for a long time, you kind of forget how bonkers it is, because on a serious ship in a serious show, you wouldn't see that. They would never put Captain Picard and number one in a wetsuit.
I don't know. I mean, maybe Riker in early TNG they would, because Riker was put into some ridiculous outfits. The open chest V thing that he has when they visit the Lady Planet.
Yes.
But you're right. They wouldn't put Picard in that crazy wetsuit. But I do love the wetsuits. And
then Wesley just front and center, just nipples out with half of his thing, half of his suit off, and Mariner, no, there's just such a joy to how they present their story that is a delight. And
I agree.
I did like the Boimler and Mariner stuff, in this episode. And really the crew was fun. I really actually enjoyed Captain Freeman in this episode too, which is kind of rarer for me. Did you?
No, I mainly because I believe her motivations and where she's at. Like, she's on mission, and then she realizes that she's so on mission that she's neglecting how fortunate she is on the Cerritos, and then sees some relation between them being second contact and Starbase 80 being forgotten, and then 100% committing to fixing Starbase 80. Like, that's very Freeman, is to realize that she's overstepped, and then overstep even more, but in the direction of correcting her previous mistake. Like, she is 100% commitment in a character, even if that direction might be wrong sometimes.
She's like the definition of the pendulum swing.
Yeah. She is like, sometimes you just need a commander that says yes, and in that direction. Like, Picard does this. There's a great episode where Picard and Beverly are psychically linked, and they're lost in a mountain, and Beverly looks at her tricorder and says, I'm not too sure which way to go. Picard looks at the tricorder and says, this way. And then she stops and says, you don't have a fucking clue. You don't know. You're just being confident. And Picard's just like, he knows that she's in his head. And he's just like, okay, sometimes as a captain, we have to pretend like we know what we're doing. And I'm like, you son of a bitch. I knew you were lying.
But that's true.
But that's true of command. Sometimes we need that confidence in order to function.
Well, that's what I'm saying,
so great
is that sometimes it's not knowing life is not the clear black and white. You 100% know all the time the right decision. You just have to get comfortable with going in a direction and trusting that you have the capability to handle whatever is ahead. But when you're in leadership and you're doing that, I think it's even more important at times to just say, we're going in this direction because that's the direction that we're going. There isn't necessarily a best answer. And you can spend so much time spinning your wheels figuring out which direction that is. And so it's fun
Sometimes
to see.
progress can be enough.
Yes. And in this case, you've got Captain Freeman, the final moment, she's, running down this dark corridor into the mouth, the gaping maw of this, I don't know, very concerning sized bat, apparently.
Yes.
And
I
then
have questions about how big that bat is.
Yeah.
It won't even fit in the box. Not with that attitude, it won't.
Exactly. And that was so fun because she's clearly a bit delusional on her capabilities, but then you have Ransom really holding back, who is usually the one that's more adventurous. Yes. Yeah. And so I enjoyed the role swapping of the writing choices in that moment where he's going, hey, I think we probably have reached our limit. And then she is showing us how Mariner kind of got her gusto as well, because she's doing a very Mariner thing. Mariner does it this episode as well when she decides to just attack the whale without a plan. I mean,
just get back into like some foundational Mariner act.
Yeah.
Like, if all else fails, I'll go back to
exactly
being crazy.
I don't have any other ideas. I guess I'll just turn back on my chaos mode and see if that helps anything. And
more to that point, Ransom, if he was with his lower deckers, then I think he would be in the Freeman position of going after it. But because she's in command and is doing it, he's going to balance her. So
yes,
I don't know. I like what they're doing with Ransom this season.
I do too.
He seems to be what the mission needs at every point, like a good first officer. So yeah, I would love to know how much of that was a deliberate in the writer's room. This is what we're going to do with Ransom this season, and how much I'm just reading too much into as I am to do.
Yes, me too. I loved it. I hope that it's intentional because I think I've seen enough. We've talked about this before, just like kind of a sprinkling of some consistency. Like when they sit down and write a character, they think this is how this character would approach this particular question.
Here's their character sheet.
Yeah. And it runs through all of those filters. Yeah. And I love that in this episode, you do have him making really interesting decisions, but then also you're just seeing him like just cover himself.
Well, let's talk about the goo. That's a nice transition into the references, unless there's anything plot wise you wanna dive into. It's kind of plot free, this one.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. Let's get into the references because there's so many, and I actually got multiple of them. So that was fun.
You did. Well, I want to hear the references that you got. First, we'll do the gel. Now, the gel is a piece of writing genius / cynicism / it probably doesn't age well now, but it comes from Enterprise, the TV show. It's a prequel. Of course it's a TV show. That was dumb. It comes from Enterprise, the prequel series, and during this time they don't use transporters. They're technically safe for human use and biological use, but they don't trust them, and they don't have the same range. So they don't have the biofilters that filter out all of the alien diseases and whatnot. So this gel, whenever they come back from an away mission on a shuttle, they have to stay in the decontamination chamber and rub gel on themselves to get rid of all of the bugs. And of course, there are certain times where the gel is rubbed onto each other's bodies, and sometimes poignant conversations happen during the gel rubbing, and sometimes there might be two characters that have a will they won't they situation and have no choice but to rub this lubricant gel onto each other in a very sensual and sexual way.
This is an existing TV show, or is this this ran fan fiction?
No, this ran 2001 to 2005. So this was legit Star Trek on TV. The ladies would be in their bras and their underwear. The men would be in very, very tight briefs. Package on show quite a lot. And yes, it was very, very sexualized. And it's hard to genuinely take that as this is a practical thing of the future. This is something that science dictates we need and is a natural evolution compared to a thing that makes for sexy TV.
Amazing.
Yeah.
This is reminding me of an actual reality TV show. called Skin Wars.
Okay. No, this is a new one to me.
It is on the rank of reality competitions. It's one you only watch out of just curiosity more than substance.
Interesting. Much like Enterprise.
In this show, they decide that reality competition needs to go into the not very popular world of body painting.
Okay. I mean, I've heard that some people will go to like parties and clubs in body paint in place of clothing. Yeah.
So they bring people in who know how to do body painting and they line out the competition. The show is hosted by, what's her name? She was
one of the aliens from Avatar.
Let me look up her name because it's great. What is her name? Rebecca
Romaine?
Yes, because she was
as in number one from Strange New Worlds. Yeah, so she was Mystique, and she's also number one in Strange New Worlds.
Okay, yes.
Una.
I guess that's the connection to Star Trek. Okay, we're on track.
We're on track there. We're totally deliberate.
Anyway, let me get back to the line because the reason that I'm thinking of it is at the end of every episode in a reality competition, usually there's someone that's kicked off the show, right? They don't make the cut.
Mm-hmm.
And every reality competition has like that line that the host says, right?
Yeah. What is it?
Her line is, "It's time to go wash off the canvas." Camera cuts over to a shower where the body paint models who are basically naked. Well, they're naked in the shower.
Yeah.
Are washing themselves off, and the camera pans down from head to toe.
Oh, there's no need for that.
And then you see all of the paint washing off of their feet.
Yeah.
The middle section of the shower is obviously they've made the shower where you
frosted.
can't actually. It's
frosted.
Yes.
Warbled
so you
and
can
frosted.
see shapes, but you can't see nudity.
Yeah.
But it just killed me that was the final line every time. Like, it's time to wash off your cam. And she had to say it so seriously. It's time to go. Like, it's time to go bathe yourself.
Go take a shower. Yeah.
Yeah. And it just completely reminds me of this. Like, hey, this is that episode where it's time this episode you're going to like lather each other down in gel and have this awkward moment together.
It's hard to picture as anything other than a sexy thing to put on TV. So that was again very on brand for Lower Decks to bring that up and to like rebrand it a little. It didn't really get rebranded at all. Actually, it was just reintroduced. And Mariner's like, hey, there's probably a good reason why we don't do this anymore.
So that's why he says something like, hey, what does he call her? Mare Bear?
Oh, Mare Bear, yeah. Can you rub my
get
back?
my back?
Yes.
So because there's the rubbing. Okay. Now that makes sense.
That was like a line in the sand of if there is anyone shipping Boimler and Mariner, stop it. There shouldn't be, because there hasn't really been a hint of that, but stop it. Like, that's not where they're at. And I love that Rutherford is the one that's applying it to Boimler. I mean, they don't even take the opportunity of having Rutherford and Tendi rub it on each other. Like, they don't even do that, which is that would be what happened in Enterprise. There would already be a scene of Rutherford and Tendi in the decontamination chamber rubbing each other with the gel. Yeah.
Amazing.
Well,
there's one reference.
There's one of them. That leads us on to what are the references that you saw? I'm so excited.
So
what did you
many.
find? Tell us.
That's part of the delight of the Starbase is seeing a lot of the old tech. And because we've watched a lot of TOS, I heard TOS sounds like when Tendi walks over to the wall and she's like, oh, it's a wall communicator. And she pushes the button and then it has the boop, boop, boop. The kind of
the whistle.
Yeah, that's it. They had the woo. And then she's like giddy. She's like, yee, and she's just super happy. A lot of the panels of it seemed like every time we had a room, it just had a very familiar old panel set up. There was like a little bit of a TNG feel whenever they were talking to the engineer. When they went into the warp room and everything was upside down on the ceiling, some of those like sections looked very Strange New Worlds / TOS to me.
It looks much more like the Strange New Worlds engine room than it does the Kirk TOS engine room, because the TOS engine room is very basic. You don't see much, and Strange New Worlds is a bit more open. Yeah,
and so it just reminded me of that, which, by the way, I love the humor beat whenever it fell from the ceiling to the floor. Oh, it was really funny.
That's what I mean about comedic timing. Like, okay, everyone's back on the, oh shit, no, there's a console that was up there as well.
And then, of course, the lift. Because we've had the conversations about the lift before, and I think there was a joke about it in... Was it Strange New Worlds or something? Or
Deep Space Nine. So this is when the crew of Deep Space Nine go back in time and they go on board the Enterprise.
That's it.
And Cisco is just
for
like
the giving episode.
That's it. The Trials and Tribulations. And Cisco is like giving a command to go to the bridge. No, or is it? It might be. It's O'Brien and Bashir, I think. And they're just like, oh, I think it's not voice. Like, is it not voice activated? Is it not working? And an Enterprise crew member comes on and activates the thing. Yes. And O'Brien's like, I won't tell anyone if you don't tell anyone.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It was very much that. But in this one, so they turn it, they turn the thing, and then they give the command. And it was really, funny, because as soon as the lift opened up, I was like, handles!
I know these handles.
But because we had to talk about it, I was confused, I think, when we watched Deep Space Nine, and then we ended up watching TOS, and then I saw the handles in TOS. They had to hold on to them while they were, and the big joke was like, well, why are we holding on to it? Are we going to fall? And what's happening? So in this one, it was really interesting. Yeah, because you have to like activate it by turning it or something like that. Yeah. But I know I'm missing a lot of other things, but there was a like turbo, what was it? There was something about where they were going arcade, and then the computer was talking back to them. I didn't know if that was a reference, like in TOS, if you had to say 2 words to activate it or something like that.
No, that was literally the computer malfunctioning and like fucking with them and sending them to the wrong place. Or it could have been the engineer deliberately diverting them to a place that he knew needed some
more assistance.
Needed some assistance. Yeah, that's what I got from that.
But yeah, I'm probably missing many other things, but those.
I'm super impressed. Like that was without being patronizing. You picked up some great references there, Danae. Well done, Ambassador.
Thank you so much.
The plan is working. She's getting exposed. She's seeing the references. There were plenty. One of my favorites was the uniform shop that they walked past, the uniform vendor. I was just like, it's only on there for a couple of frames, but I was like, there's one from the motion picture. There's the Monster Maroon. There's another. And it's just racks and racks of the original series era of uniforms as well. It was limited to TOS in the movies.
I did see a lot of very familiar uniforms that were kind of, and it reminded me of was it Camden Yard?
Yeah, Camden Market. Yeah.
Camden Market, because it had that same kind of vibe where there's just all this vintage stuff that they've repurposed.
Very, very similar. Yeah, it has that has the kind of grungy vibe of Camden Market. I kind of love it. Yeah, I would walk around there all day long. What other references did we have? Okay, so the engineer himself is pretty much a Trip Tucker homage, who he's the chief engineer on Enterprise in the show Enterprise. And he's this like how Scotty was Scottish, obviously. Enterprise's equivalent was to make him like a yeehaw Texas cowboy. So you don't often get really thick regional accents in Star Trek, because I think in the future, Gene was very much, every accent has kind of unified a little bit. Scotty being the exception. I guess the original series was the exception, because you had Chekhov that was very Russian and Scotty that was very Scottish. But by TNG, everything's kind of unified. But on Enterprise, Trip was as southern as it gets. He would like use analogies and be like, well, yeehaw, saddle up, and just very, very thick Texas accent. And this guy obviously had a very thick Southern accent as well. So I think it's just like he's in the Enterprise uniform. He's an engineer, therefore he must be Southern.
That's interesting, because we had that British guy in this one. What did you think of him? The doctor.
Oh, it was so funny. He was such
tip top.
He was such a Bashir reference, just having the British guy. He made me laugh so much, and he in and of himself is a reference as well, because he's like half black and blue with like the blue lines all over him. That's a reference to Identity Crisis, and Geordie is getting turned into that blue creature gradually.
Oh, interesting.
There's an away mission he was on years and years and years earlier, and each member is being turned into one of those aliens, and he has to figure out why before it's too late. So a one episode reference. I love that. When I saw the half, I was like, wait, that's not an Identity Crisis reference. It can't be. Yep, of course it is. Of course it is, because that's what Lower Decks does. I think that's all that I had. Oh, the Akamarians. The Akamarians would be the other big reference. They're the 80s knifing gang that are in control of half of the space station. Again, that's a one episode of TNG reference from the Vengeance Factor, and literally they go to a planet for like some peace talks. They get ambushed, but it's like this 80s biker gang with knives, and it's a super duper like Warriors ripoff, the movie Warriors. It's kind of like that kind of vibe. And the crew of the Enterprise has to work out this murder mystery that's happening between these two warring clans and broker peace between them and whatnot. And yeah, that's the only time the Akamarians are mentioned, until Lower Decks decides to bring them back from the dead and put them on a starbase. And yeah, other than Elorians, which we've mentioned, I think that's everything. But yeah, love the old TOS comm panels. I love seeing the old TOS text. Nox had a TOS phaser that she zapped a zombie with as well. Yeah, love seeing the retro technology. One final question I had, the score. I really liked the score for this episode. And it was very spooky, and I'm confused why this episode wasn't like episode 3 or something, because it was a very like Halloween feeling episode, and I think it's because they wanted more Starbase 80 references before we got here. But this feels like a perfect Halloween episode.
I think it would have been a really great Halloween episode if they had kind of been able to line it up. Maybe they just didn't think about that particular part, but there's a spooky side to it for sure. The music is got that kind of daunting feel, but then you have a lot of nostalgic sounds from different eras that are being used. I love the music that all Star Trek. Mm-hmm. I get chills listening to the intro music. In fact, we skip the intro music to consume the show before we go live.
Yeah.
But then as we're gearing up to launch our live show, we listen to the music.
Because it's in the credits.
I just love it. I love listening to the music. So yeah, I think that the score is always really nice.
Yeah, it's always great. Well, before we do some sins, how many pips is the name of this round?
4 pips.
4 pips. Wow. Yeah, I'm giving it 3. And I think it's because I'm a tough judge, because a 4-pipper needs some deep character work, dialogue, as well as a lot of fun. And this had a lot of fun, but it was super entertaining for me. So
Mariner's character pips. Conversations weren't enough for you.
Nope. And that should not be a surprise.
Interesting.
I'll give it 3.5 because it's pretty close. I'll give it 3.5 pips. It's Commander with a bit extra. This pip system is completely broken. I love it.
We have the most fucked up pip system ever.
Really do. People hate that we have 3.5 pips. It's amazing. It's amazing. With that, let's head over to engineering for some sins. This is the part of the show where we re-engage our sim brains, remind each other that, no, that's not how I do that intro at all. I got put off because I didn't say battle stations, everyone, so I'm going to go back and do that. Battle stations, everyone. This is the part of the show where we re-engage our sim brains, remind ourselves that no TV shows about sin, even our beloved Star Trek. Ambassador, would you like to go first? Did you have anything this week?
I really didn't have very much this week. I think, like, for me, the biggest sin is how quickly Mariner shifts over into her, Starbase 80 is amazing. Like that just felt a bit forced to me. It's just hard for me to kind of see that. But when I add in the previous episodes of her behavior, I do think that she has been on a really deep story arc of changing. Yeah. And this episode is meant to tip that over into she is solidly becoming somebody who is for missions and she's for change. And so I think I kind of land in the middle for me, but it felt forced in the moment. That was one sin.
Once the story is done with that part of the story, it's really done with it. It's like, okay, she's fine, let's move on.
The other sin that I wrote down, I'll just go through both of mine and then you can do some of yours and I'll go into the chat, see what we got there. But is that the food replicators are not working, but then we have vendors. And I just don't, if they don't get regular food supply, I don't understand how food vendors would work. And there's
lots of... How are they getting their supplies?
Yeah, I think the joke is that hot dogs are just made out
Eternal?
Of... Yeah, like they're like the Twinkie of meat.
Yeah, they will never, ever expire.
But, and they even reference that the other food has expired. And, you know, I think we're even meant to believe that maybe the food is what is contaminated for a brief moment there. But I am confused about how their ecosystem, their world works if they don't have access to the replicators that we see everywhere else. And I have a hard time understanding how the Federation how they're able to ignore Starbase 80 like that. And that's the joke. The joke is that this is they don't care about this one in particular.
Why even have it? Just decommission it. Like, what is it doing if you're not going to service it?
So I'm confused about that.
Yeah.
I think I almost, if I think about it too much, it kind of makes me mad. Like for the joke, we have food vendors and we have a food court. And I love that. I love having a food court and I love having an old rundown food court. That's a fun place to see all the arcades and the lights and everything like that. It's, you know, very much reminds me of 1990s mall or something like that. But I don't know. Sometimes I think the show's jokes go a little bit too far. And I realize how stupid that sounds because this is a made up universe and they can do whatever they want.
We've mentioned this before because one of the beauties of Star Trek and why it endures for so long and endears is that it's a vision of the future that's believable. Like I can imagine living on the Enterprise and have often dreamed of doing so. So when Lower Decks can sometimes push reality beyond what is really quote unquote believable or like takes it that hard to describe step too far, it does kind of take you out of it. So yeah, I get it. Like it's hard to see a station be so neglected when it must have some resources. It must get something. Like it's criminal to not even give them a shipment of like stationery. Like they literally don't have anything. And that seems weird in Starfleet, which is supposed to be like a utopia that has replicators that can do whatever you want. And like these people are basically on rations. Like they're living worse than Voyager is living better than they are. And Voyager's 80,000 light years away.
Yeah. I'm going to take all the sins. I just remembered another one that I hate before I forget it is at the end, the this works element of how everything wraps up.
Bonk on the head.
Just that the entire success of their mission is entirely dependent on just accident after stupid choice after we're just going to put this thing in a bucket and then it just so happens that a smack to the beluga coughs out this entity in beluga saliva and then it goes into a bucket. I'm okay with it because there comes a tipping point for my interest and I wanted the show to end, so I'm okay with it. But that was maybe the other one for me.
No, I get it. Like there was a little bit of me that was like, oh, I'm glad we're not spending too long on the resolution. But there's a bigger part of me that's like, what happened to science? Like, can we not just science the shit out of it? And I know the joke is that they're just like, oh, doctor, how did you manage to do that? And he's like, complicated doctor things, when he knows how dumb his luck is, that hitting the whale on the head worked so perfectly.
Maybe that's part of the point. Sometimes the captain just has to decide to go left or right, and there's no right choice. Exactly. Sometimes you just accidentally save the day because you decide to beat a whale about the head. I don't know.
Not a euphemism.
I didn't like it.
So my biggest sin was, and this is a space thing and shows misunderestimating how big space is sometimes. And the Cerritos drops out of warp and navigation is out of the question, but Starbase 80 is close enough. And they're just like, no, our only other option is to spend 400 years traveling to this other starbase. Now, by that logic, what if Starbase 80 hadn't been there? Is that your only option? Like, the fact that you dropped out of warp anywhere near anything is incredible, unless there's something tied into the ship that's like, okay, we'll drop out of warp. Like, there's a protocol where you have to drop out of warp near something, but that doesn't make sense because this was definitely an emergency. So yeah, you need to be that close for the story, but space is so big, you're much more likely to be near nothing than you are something. And if they really, really didn't want to go to Starbase 80, the only other option can't be traveling at impulse for 400 years. Like, you still have emergency communications, like the shuttles are warp capable, for example, but I guess they wouldn't have navigation either. But you could still ask for help. You could send a distress call. Like, Starbase 80 wasn't really the only option, was my biggest sin, but I get it. My next one was how quickly Rutherford and everyone just dismisses the groaning from Billups. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but like, you err on the side of caution. Like, yes, it could be breakfast. It could be an upset stomach. It could be he stubbed his toe. But you know what doesn't hurt? Confirming that. It doesn't hurt to do a wellness call and be like, hey, Billups made a noise. Can we check on that? Because shit kind of happens in space, but they're very quick to dismiss it.
Then they get over there, and yes, it's funny, but there's like a what's it called? When it's all going to blow up and there's a countdown and then
self-destruct?
Yeah, that's it. They had the self-destruct thing going on and then it turns off. That was really funny.
That quote out got me so... I knew it was coming and I still laughed. Because like, self-destruct aborted. Self-destruct activated. No!
Yeah, and then they're going again. But somebody should have checked on Billups. The sin is always not checking on Billups.
Yeah, the sin, as always, is check on Billups. He needs it. He needs emotional and physical support. On the distress call, on the self-destruct thing, should not be that easy to set the self-destruct. I thought maybe the anaphasic sex alien was doing it on purpose. No, it was literally because Billups or whoever was licking the console and that turns on the self-destruct. That shouldn't... Nope. Yeah. That's not how that works at all. Nope. No. Also, Mariner isn't even qualified to turn it off. You need to be a senior rank. You need to be... In fact, in most cases, you need at least 2, sometimes 3 codes to activate the self-destruct, and you need at least 2 to turn it off again. Because once you've turned it on, it's probably for a good reason. It shouldn't be that easy to turn on and off the self-destruct. For the sake of the B plot, it's very convenient that Ransom and Freeman never used their comm badges once.
What?
If they'd used their comm badges, there's no B plot anymore because they're on their own. And if they use their comm badge at any point, they get zombified and you have no B plot. So they have to not use their comm badges.
Oh, Marin, you mean Freeman and
Ransom. What did I say?
Oh, I didn't hear the first part of that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Freeman and Ransom.
Yeah, that was very convenient.
There is no B plot if they use their comm badges.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. With the, I don't know if I missed this, but why couldn't they use the Cerritos transporters to get over there?
I don't know. I don't know if it's...
Starbase 80 can't.
Yeah.
But I don't know why Cerritos can't.
I wonder
if I missed that.
I don't know. I'm at this point maybe like you, jaded about the whole transporter thing. It literally is a transporters won't transport cliche.
Yeah, and it is one of my favorite things in Star Trek that never should have been invented plot wise. Like, if you have to find a way to turn them off so often, they never should have been introduced. And do you know, I'm such a fucking nerd. Do you know why they were introduced to begin with? Transporters, like functionally for TOS, why they were a thing.
Something related to sex?
I mean, that would make sense with Gene, but no, there was a production reason for it.
Somebody wanted to use glitter?
Yes, that was it. Yeah, that was it. They had a lot of leftover glitter from the 50s that they just needed to use. Yeah.
Really?
No, not really. No. It was cheaper. It was too expensive. You believe? Oh, I'm so sorry. You believe me?
I did. There was so much glitter.
No, it was cheaper.
Just rooms of glitter and gel, and then you mix them together, and all of a sudden you have, okay.
You have transporter effects. No, it was because it was too expensive to land the Enterprise each time. So if they wanted to visit an alien ship, they needed a way to get the crew onto the ship, and landing the model of the Enterprise was prohibitively expensive, special effects wise.
I'm so impressed with the chat. Everybody got that one right.
Yay!
Wow,
well done,
chat.
Nice.
Amazing.
All about, I mean, if in doubt, it's money when it comes to, if a story thing has been invented, it's most likely money.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. It would look, and it would also look terrible. What a great accidental perfect. Like, I love transporting.
Yeah,
the transporter is so great.
It's so iconic. You have that noise, and then they just decided to go whole hog with like the transporter noise and the effects. Like,
make it a deal.
They could have just done snap a finger and then they suddenly appear. Step into this, step out.
No,
but you've got like it's its own musical thing, and visually, it's so freaking good, so good, so good. My last one, and I mean, there's so many, but my last one that I'll mention is that the zombies conveniently and dramatically reveal themselves. Like, they sprinkle to begin with, and then suddenly it's a zombie horde all at once. Once they're at the point of, oh no, something is definitely happening here, then it's the horde of zombies. So yeah, the zombies are perfectly dramatically timed with the reveal of there are zombies. But
the reveal of the zombie is so funny when that door opens and then they walk in and then they fall. It was really good.
Oh, it's so...
I guess R.I.P. that guy.
He's 100% dead. So this is when they leave the engine room and there's like 3 zombies in the little tunnel thing that they took. And obviously they've taken the grab rail to get down, but this zombie just walks out and hits the deck so hard. I laughed so loud. Just that physical comedy and timing just got me. But yeah, that guy died. He died so much. Well, with that, that's all that I had. Really liked that episode. It was perfect mid-season episode, I think. Next week's episode is called Of Gods and Angles, and I had to read that twice. It's definitely angles. So yeah, super quickly, what's happening next week of Gods and Angles?
A math equation is going to be important.
Yeah, that's where I'm going as well. A god will try and take over a planet, and they will use math to communicate with the god and stop them because math.
Like a Qbert episode. Just like this. Yeah.
Q?
Yeah. I'm thinking Q related.
I think that's what it is. Well, if you have any more predictions for the rest of the show or anything you want to share with us, please send us a lovely, or not, send us a horrible message by email to captainspod at cinemasins.com. You can also join us on our lovely Discord channel on the CinemaSins Discord, discord.gg. /CinemaSins, where the sausage lives long and sausage. The sausage quotes and titles are still continuing. I think we're at least 10 days into this, and I love it so much. But yeah, until then, I'm Captain Ian. Shit, I don't have an end quote. Bollocks. I didn't write one down. How did I not do that? Hang on. I'll find one. Oh, there we go. I'm Captain Ian, and can science explain Q? Probably.
And I'm Ambassador Danae, and haha, my glutes, the power of stairs.
Live long and prosper. We did it.
We did it. Oh, can we talk about a couple of interesting things that popped up in the chat too, just really quickly? I really wanted to, this was interesting. The sound effects of TOS transporters actually are music.
Oh, that's amazing.
They were composed and recorded by an orchestra. That's a fact from David Ellis.
That makes sense because it had to be. Like, they didn't have the, let's go to a sound effects board and do zip zappy zoop zoops. Like, they had proper music and Foley artists. Like the TARDIS, you know, like when I don't know if you know this, but when the TARDIS takes off, there's that whining sound, that the like grinding sound that it makes as the TARDIS disappears.
I've never watched the show. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's Doctor Who. But anyway, they make that noise by they opened up a piano, got a sheet of metal, and then scraped the sheet of metal against the piano strings. And like, yep, that's the sound of our spaceship.
Okay, so
cool.
Fun story. There's a guy that back in my church going days when I was a little kid, I went to this church that had like the full choir in the front every single Sunday. And there was this guy that would sit on the front pew and he would bring a saw, like a hand saw, like the real long ones with like the big long, like warbly metal with all of the teeth off of it.
Okay.
And a bow from a violin. And he plonked he would hold on to like the saw handle with his left hand, and then he would like hold the other end of the saw between his legs. And then with his other hand, he would like use the bow along the metal and warble it.
That's crazy. That must have made an insane sound.
So then we have like the all hail God, and then like this little, here's the sound to make. Wow.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. How do you keep a straight face?
The first time I heard it, I was like, who is making that in the choir? I thought it was like a because it would go really high.
Did you do that? That's incredible.
And it would do these like crazy sounds. Finally figured it out because I watched him walk in one day and he's holding a saw and a bow, and I'm like, what the fuck?
That's like, what is going to happen at church?
I haven't thought about that in so long. I wonder if there's videos of people using like a saw, playing a saw.
Wandering Winder seems to agree.
It reminds me of how like special effects sounds are made, though. There's just all these really interesting noises that you can get.
It's in Foley artists are incredible.
Okay, we're gonna watch this.
Go for it. We may not have sound. You may have to include audio.
Okay. How am I gonna do this? I'm gonna figure this out.
While you figure that out, I'll do Lodaire's tidbit from another podcast that Tawny Newsom appeared on, Mariner. The Starbase 80 Doctor was originally called Dr. Horseberry, but the studio legal department didn't approve it because apparently there is a real Dr. Horseberry, so they had to call him Dr. Harrison, and this annoyed Mike McMahon very greatly. Thank you for that tidbit. That's fun.
Yeah. I guess that makes some sense.
Yeah. David said, I need an Enterprise uniform. Well, no, nobody needs 5 different uniforms, and I would sin David for that. Yes, you do need 5 different uniforms. I think I have... Wait, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... I think I'm at 6. I think I have 6 uniforms. Oh, 7 if you include Q's uniform. But that's not a uniform.
And pajamas. Do you have pajamas?
I don't count pajamas.
Okay.
For legit uniforms. Come on, Danae. What are you talking about? Okay. Oh, 7. No, because I have the TNG dress uniform, the white one.
Of course.
So yeah, it's...
Okay.
7.
Okay. Let's see. Share screen.
At least 7.
And then it'd be like an entire screen. And then
Do
maybe
it.
like this. And then like this. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, you ready, guys?
I'm ready.
You like wiggle it. So you can see how I would think that it was somebody that was like really badly singing.
Mm-hmm.
Like
that is amazing.
Like they were struggling.
That kind of sounds like the TOS theme.
Do you think that was it? No, that's a singer. They were
it would
singing.
be incredible. Well, no, but it wasn't a singer. It was only in season 2 that there was a singing lady. The rest of the time it is just yeah, it really does. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I appreciate that you didn't go for the high note there.
I was blown away. That's amazing.
Oh man.
Oh,
Exactly.
theremin.
Yes, that on top of the
Yes. Hallelujah. Amazing. I love a theremin. Love a theremin.
Is that what it's called?
No. Theremins are different. Theremins are like the board that you have on the. It's like it works by like electrical currents, and you just put your hand over it, and as you move your hand up and down, it pitches and modulates. And yeah, Newton Faulkner makes good use of theremins.
That's cool.
Yeah,
It's like you're back in
very
church,
cool.
isn't that true? Just that's
Right
exactly
back,
right.
Right back in church.
I want to get to another question.
This question.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So I have been going in and doing just the basic levels of Spanish for 1 year. And within the first 5 days, I knew that I was not going to be learning how to speak Spanish in a functional way.
Yes.
For probably 5 years. Like at the Duolingo pace, I don't think I'm going to be comfortable, but I can assimilate a lot more contextually. If I'm like reading something, I can kind of get the gist of it a little bit more. I feel like, obviously I'm learning, I'm doing it, but it is a very game-based style of learning. Unless you're going in and you're really, really self-motivated to say every single thing yourself, repeat it a few times, maybe make notes as you go. But it's not really designed to be like, we're going to help you learn how to have a conversation in 6 months. To me, I think I would struggle to have like a conversation with someone unless that person was willing to have a kindergarten level chat with me.
Yeah.
And then maybe I could follow along.
I don't even know if it would work for that. I don't have
personally. I feel like I personally could have a kindergarten level conversation right now because of my daily practice.
Yeah.
For a year.
Exactly. I don't have any like kind of evidence for this, but I used it for about a year as well, on and off. And I feel like it is good to supplement real lessons. Like if you functionally need a reason to learn a language, like if you find yourself living in a new country and you're around the language, or you have a new job where you need it, it's good to like supplement like proper lessons, but you're not going to become fluent unless you're using it every day. And like it's like a muscle that you need to keep using and improving on. Like you're only really going to get fluent if it's in your life and you have a reason to be talking to another human being about it as well. Like I don't think you're going to get conversational just with Duolingo alone.
I think the answer to this question is yes. I have learned things. But
yeah,
absolutely, statistically, historically, evidentially, if you want to learn a language, you need to take an actual course to be around a teacher and forced to communicate, because the lessons don't always make you speak it. And so it's not like you're speaking the language and you're having conversations. There are some, like, so the way that Duolingo works is that there's some, sometimes you're reading something in English and you're translating to Spanish. Then you're reading in Spanish, you're translating to English. Sometimes you're speaking it, sometimes you're listening to it and you're picking out the words. So it's got a variety of ways that you're interacting with the language. I really like that aspect of it. And there are some times that you'll play games or you'll listen to a conversation. You have to answer questions like, what are they talking about? And that, I think, is incredibly helpful because you're listening at a pace where someone is more likely to speak instead of being able to slow it down to really, like, you know, hear things. So, but again, you'd have to immerse yourself in that and maybe do, instead of 1 lesson a day, just so that you can keep your streak, do like 10 lessons a day. Maybe with that, you could use Duolingo to become more fluent, but then you're talking about paying for it. And Duolingo is like $100 a year if you want to have the version that you can take as many lessons as you want. I decided not to do that. So I only get 5 chances every single day to get my lesson right. And if I don't get my 5 chances, then I have to go in and earn my hearts back by doing more lessons, which is a great way to keep somebody engaged. So I don't know if it, I agree with you, Loder. I don't think it's meant for fluency, but I didn't start Duolingo to become fluent. I wanted to make myself do something on my phone that was not stupid. I wanted to do something that was actually teaching me something. And I think learning Spanish
mildly productive
is a fine thing. But yeah, I'm definitely not fluent at all.
My only issue with, like, it's not meant for fluency, it definitely advertises itself, from what I remember, as being meant for fluency. Like, when I've seen adverts, it's like, become fluent in a language in however many months or whatever, or like, it does advertise itself that way. It doesn't advertise itself as being supplemental to learning a new language. Like,
I mean, I think it's possible though. If you pay for it.
Even if you pay for it, I don't think it's going to get you there.
You have to be so motivated, though. And that's the thing is, like, if you're not a motivated person to go on and do an hour of lessons every single day, then it's not that. Like you could say that you could become a Star Trek expert by listening to the show, and that's a stretch. But if you listened to 20 hours of our show, you might, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're going to advertise that you can do something with it if you use it that way.
I think you could pretend. Yeah. I at that point, if you're spending that much time in the app, your time is better spent with a human being that will teach you the language. Like, I think the amount of time you'd have to spend for Duolingo to make you fluent, it would take half as much time if you did it with a human being.
I will say this. One of the things I really like about it is I do this with Iris. And so we together approach the lessons in a really unique way where she will push a button and it'll say, like, whatever the word is. And then I will try to, from memory, say what the English word is instead of looking at the 4 options and using process of elimination. Yeah. So there's that. It's also helped her to learn to write, to identify English words, because I'll read a sentence in Spanish and tell her the English translation, and then she has to find the English word. So because of where she's at in her, like, learning how to read and write, it's helped her to do that. So it's kind of a fun thing for us to do together, but that's a unique situation for Duolingo. So that's why I choose to use it. It's also, she has Spanish lessons every single day at her school. And because of that, cool. She's learning and teaching me things, and it is supported by the Duolingo because she's like, oh, I know that word. And she, learns Chico and Chica and things like this. So,
well, and you've hit on where I think Duolingo could excel and should excel is supplementing kids learning English. Like, for Iris, like, I think, like, that it's a great resource because she is speaking English every day. It is her primary. Spanish? No, English. I mean, like teaching kids how to speak English, like that's really, really helpful to supplement the stuff they're learning at school, to help them learn how to read, write, and spell the language that they are going to be using every single day. Like that's where it is a supplemental thing that can accelerate their learning, not as learning a fresh language.
I like Duolingo because I'm using it as a thing for my brain to do, to learn how to read in Spanish or learn how to try to pick up on conversations just because I'm curious about it, not because I have a goal. I'm not going to go to a Spanish speaking country and expect to kind of meet that. So if someone is getting Duolingo because they've been told that it's going to help them speak another language, I think that it will help them to get comfortable hearing new words, and it's presented in a fashion that kind of makes it more like a game, which can be a really interesting way to open up and like learn something new.
Yeah.
But nothing can replace taking a Spanish speaking course. Like if you have a community center or something in your local area that would provide you with a Spanish speaking like class, that's how to learn.
Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree.
Slab, why are you learning Italian? Are you going to be traveling soon?
Yeah.
Are you going to
Europe,
Italy?
my friend? Let's do it.
I could come to New Mexico and be able to blend in. I don't blend in anywhere where there is anyone that has any color to their skin at all. I stand out
pasty
like
lady.
I stand out. I will not be blending in.
I'm from England and I look tanned next to Danae, honestly.
There's no blending in for me, and that's fine. No. I don't mind.
Back to some Star Trek. Sin removal from David Ellis. Starbase 80's design is roughly based on the design of Starfleet headquarters in the 1970s technical manual, which is in keeping with its TOS interiors. Love that. Love that. There is a point that I wanted to make, but it's a sin that would get cut from any imaginary script we were writing. And it's, how do they have the Enterprise uniforms? Because that predates TOS by 80 to 100 years. So I'm kind of like, you would have to have them, that predates the building of this starbase. So you would have to have them specially shipped, unless back in like TOS days, they didn't even get the TOS uniforms. They're like, here, have this old stuff. And they've been handed down for 200 years. Like there's a point where the jumpsuits, I don't understand how you still have them lying around because they're so old.
I don't either. Mm-hmm. When my wife goes to the beach, I yell, "The beacons are lit! Gondor calls for aid!" Like if I was in that situation, I would be going like, "In Rohan," and then just walk into the water.
Riders of Rohan. Love that. Next, we
How big do you think Starbase 80 is?
I would guess it's the size of like a
Tulsa.
No, Jesus Christ. I would say like in the order of like multiple skyscrapers. So probably like 10 skyscrapers tall. 10 so skyscrapers tall and then like 10 wide maybe.
At least 33, just going up and down 33 levels the whole time. Up the stairs, down the thing. Yeah, at least exactly. You guys are on the same page.
Up the stairs. I love it. This was a good sin. Why would any part of the ship in cetacean ops be able to shock the water?
I had the same question, but I think the shock was the color of the invader, and so that was.
It's not an electrical shock. It's a animal. What are they called? Anaphasic shock.
Let's take a look here.
Do what comparison? Can you do a comparison?
Yeah.
Nick has the definitive answer. It looked pretty big. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
Appreciate it.
Let's take a look
Oh,
here.
I was wrong. It's not anaphasic. It's Anna Kendrick. My bad.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes all of the sense.
Let's see here.
Thank you, Nick. David says, Starbase 80 has been around since the TOS era, question mark. Does that mean Starbase 1 to 79 have also not been remodeled since the 2260s? Or is Starfleet just a dick to Starbase 80? I think Starbase 1 to 79 are closer. So I think Starbase 80 is so far away that it gets neglected and the others are closer. But who knows? Maybe 79 is neglected too.
I'm not seeing an easy comparison to try to grab, like where I can show, but maybe that'll be something that comes out once the fans do what the fans do and they make all the cool like charts that I usually like to go look at.
Yeah, there's definitely like ship comparison things out there. Like Starbase 1 would be, I'm sure there's been comparisons versus Starbase 1. I'll do some Googling if you want to go into the questions.
No, actually, I think I am ready.
Oh yeah, we've actually got to get back to some work. Shit.
We do. Unfortunately, we have to go back to work. We have content to create for you guys.
Yeah, we do.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Captain's Pod. Let's look ahead at next week. What's going on? Let's take a look real quick and see if there's anything that you guys need to know about so that you can prepare yourself. But all information is shared with you on
next week, the
Discord and such.
The show will be at the same time next week, same place, no differences. The following week, it will be on Saturday. The time of day of the live show is to be confirmed, but it'll be around the same time. It'll be, if not 12:30, it'll be like 11 or 11:30. But yeah, next week is normal. Following week will be Saturday.
Yep. And all of that information is available on Discord in the events section of our Discord. That's discord.gg/cinemasins. You can also find any updates in the calendars that you keep yourself. And then you erase and then you rewrite them and then you erase and you write as we have to adjust our schedule. So
amazing.
Sorry for changes last minute, but we do have other things to create for you guys. So hopefully you're enjoying what we're doing over at CinemaSins. Check that out on YouTube. And then, of course, you can also look at Recotopia, which is a weekly podcast looking at content that you might enjoy, including like movies and shows and various things. Jeremy has returned to Recotopia. So
yeah, he has.
Yeah, so that's fun. You can catch that show here on Twitch or YouTube every Tuesday. So yeah, until next week, you guys have some fun out there. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the last bits of fall before we go full on into winter. Are you putting up a Christmas tree soon? Let's talk about it next time. Okay, bye.
I'm not. Bye.
You're not?
No.
You're not going to put up a Christmas tree?
No, I live on my own. Be silly.